Hyundai and Kia are finally getting serious when it comes to electric cars. Their ramp up has gone very slowly for a number of years, but recently they have announced plans that show that yes, they are very, very serious and they want to make them work. They want to sell millions of electric cars. But the question is it too late? Hello my friends, welcome to the channel. I'm the Electric Viking. My name is Sam Evans and I'm coming to you here from Melbourne, Australia. Welcome to all you new subscribers. Welcome back everyone. I've reported on this channel that Hyundai and Kia have made some incredible electric cars. Even if you hate electric cars, if you drive a Hyundai Ioniq 5 or if you drive a Kia EV6, then I'm sorry, but you're a complete moron if you don't think those two cars are incredibly impressive. They just are. Doesn't matter what brand you like, doesn't matter what kind of cars you're into, those two cars are two of the best cars ever made in the history of the automotive industry. That's just a fact. You guys know I'm not a big fan of Kia and Hyundai in general for one good reason. So I'm not boosting their brands because I'm some sort of brand fan. I'm not at all. I'm just telling the truth. But here's another big truth. Right now, Hyundai and Kia's electric car sales, they're improving at a slow and steady pace. Guess what? China is like right next door to South Korea. In China, well, they make what? Millions of electric cars at incredibly cheap prices. Who are they competing with? South Korea, right? And who is ramping up production at incredible pace? China. Who is not ramping production at incredible pace? South Korea. The reality is, while the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5 are phenomenal cars, Hyundai and Kia don't make very many of them. That is a problem because their competitors are currently making a lot. So what's changed recently? Recently, I believe that it's become very clear that one thing has changed. Management at Hyundai and Kia have finally said, well, you know what? We have no choice. We need to start taking this more seriously. If we do not, we will go bankrupt. The Electric Viking is correct. They watched my video talking about how they're going to go bankrupt, talking about how they weren't ramping up production, talking about how that was going to be a huge reason for them being screwed. I gave you the numbers. I'll put a link in the description below. I showed you the proof why those car companies were screwed. Hyundai and Kia, I'm talking about here, very screwed, very bankrupt. That will happen, or would have, if they had kept going on the trajectory they were only a few months ago. Now, guess what? They're singing an entirely different tune. What are they saying now? Well, Hyundai and Kia have confirmed they will build a new electric car factory in Georgia in the US at a cost of nearly $6 billion US. Clearly, the United States car market does matter to Kia and Hyundai. But Clean Technica says that their plans for EV manufacturing go deeper and wider than that. This week, Hyundai Motor Group said it plans to invest $17 billion US. Between now and 2030 to ramp up electric car production in South Korea. Probably doesn't sound like a lot of money in comparison to, Volkswagen's $200 billion, but I think realistically, it is true that Volkswagen make a lot more cars than Kia and Hyundai. The goal, according to a report out of Korea, is to increase domestic production from an estimated 350,000 units this year. 350,000 this year. And that's not bad, but that's only slightly more than what XPeng, which is pretty much an unknown brand that's just ramping up production right now, is likely to sell this year. They've got to increase that 350,000 all the way up to 1.44 million units by the end of the decade. Globally, Hyundai and Kia want to produce as many as 3.23 million electric cars in 2030, 45% of which will come off assembly lines in South Korea. So they're changing their tune, half of this, right? When I first made my video about Kia and Hyundai, chances of them going bankrupt, which at the time, in my view, was extremely high based on the numbers that they were giving us. Well, they've changed those numbers. Now they're saying that in 2030, they want to be producing 3.23 million EVs worldwide. 2031, of course, that number would be higher again. So what does this actually mean? Well, how many cars are Kia and Hyundai selling? In 2021, global Kia sales increased by 6.5% to nearly 2.8 million vehicles. Kia forecasts 3.15 million vehicle sales worldwide in 2022. And let's just say they hit 3 million. Seems reasonable. What about Hyundai? In 2021, Hyundai global car sales increased by 3.9% to 3.9 million vehicles worldwide. They forecast an increase of 11% in 2022. So this would mean they'd hit around about 4.3 million vehicles this year. Let's add the two together. 4.3 million plus 3 million equals around 7.3 million, which would be a pretty good result for the car company. As of course, together, they would be the third largest manufacturer in the world. So what does this mean? Well, Hyundai and Kia want to increase their car sales to around 8 million per year by the end of the decade. So in other words, they're saying that 3.23 million out of that 8 million will be electric. So around about 40% of all cars they sell at the end of the decade will be EV only. Is this a winning strategy? Well, no, it's not. Clearly. I mean, no one in their right mind would think this is a winning strategy. Is it a strategy that could stave off bankruptcy? Maybe, possibly. You know what I think the strategy is? I think it's a strategy that will allow them to stay in business, but at a far reduced scale than where they're at now. More than likely, rather than selling 8 million cars in 2030, Hyundai will sell closer to 5 million, with at least 3.5 million of those being electric vehicles. Now here's a quote from Hyundai. Hyundai Motor and Kia's large-scale investment in the domestic EV industry aims to improve the domestic EV ecosystem and make the country a global leader in innovation in the future automotive industry. Now, Kia and Hyundai have not disclosed yet where the $17 billion will be allocated and which factories will get that money. Hyundai did announce, though, on March that it will introduce 17 electric vehicles by 2030, 11 under the Hyundai brand and 6 for Genesis. We don't know how many Kia is going to release. In another announcement this week, Kia said it will establish a new smart manufacturing facility dedicated to producing electric purpose-built vehicles at its existing manufacturing site in Korea. The company plans to begin construction in the first half of 2023, with the aim to commence commercial production in the second half of 2025. So you can see, I mean, Legacy Auto, they make announcements and it does take them a fair while to get there. To be honest, you might be thinking you're being too harsh here. And I understand that. But truthfully, if you see how fast Chinese car companies are ramping up production, they essentially say they're going to do something and within a year, they've actually completed production in the factory and started manufacturing that product. It's kind of scary because that is the competition. So this new Kia factory will be able to build 100,000 electric vehicles a year when it opens, with the capacity to increase production to 150,000 units annually as the market expands during the remainder of this decade. So Kia are kind of, the way they're wording here, listen, you got to listen to this. The language is very tiptoe. This dedicated facility is one of the major pillars of our Plan S strategy as Kia seeks to claim the top position in the global market, said Ho-Sung Song, CEO of Kia. Sounds a lot like General Motors, Ford, Volkswagen claiming the top position. No real numbers to say we're going to get to this number and then do that. It's just like this kind of mythical idea of getting the top position. We will initially explore new markets with derivative models, then gradually expand our presence in global markets with dedicated models featuring autonomous driving technology. Now, Kia has used the word purpose-built vehicle when they reference their ramping up media outlets have got this confused with Canoo's customized vehicle. I mean, essentially, they're just saying purpose-built electric car, built on an electric platform, essentially, an electric car built from the ground up. Kia says its new PBV facility will begin by building a mid-sized electric car, codenamed SW, based on its ES skateboard platform that is being developed explicitly for electric cars. The new platform can accommodate various model sizes in response to diverse customer demands. Following the launch of the SW, Kia will diversify into unmanned micro-sized PBVs, in other words, autonomous ride-hailing electric vehicles, maybe mini buses, minivans, general logistics, fresh food, multi-seat shuttles, and large electric vehicles that can be used as mobile offices or shops. The future is so bright, that we got to wear shades, as they say. Like Volkswagen, Hyundai and Kia are putting their money where their mouths are when it comes to accelerating their EV revolution. Now, their current vehicles are incredibly compelling, but obviously having only 40% of the cars you sell as fully electric cars in 2030 is simply an impossible scenario that won't work out. Why? Because, well, the majority of Kia's sales occur where? They occur in Europe, Asia, and North America. Those markets will be fully electric by the time we hit 2030, or at least almost. Very, very, very close to. The markets where we will see internal combustion engine vehicles still getting around, still selling, will be countries like places like the Middle East, Africa, countries where they don't have a fully electric grid that's capable of powering EVs everywhere. Those are the places where we're still going to see a small numbers of EVs being sold. But in the majority of the Western world and in Asia, internal combustion engine vehicles just won't be a thing in 2030. I mean, come on, guys, wake up. The transition is happening quickly. It's happening at speed. 9 years away. 9 years from now. People are going to still be driving around cigarettes on wheels. Yeah, I don't think so, Kia Hyundai. You need to do better than this if you want to sell more than 3.5 million cars or 4 million cars. You need to do better. But maybe they'll be happy with that number. And frankly, I think that could be realistic because if you think about it, the Chinese are going to take a significant percentage of the market. Everyone's going to lose some sales, except Tesla, in my view. They're going to gain sales. Who's going to lose some sales to the Chinese? Well, obviously Volkswagen, Ford, General Motors, Renault, Peugeot. In particular, more than any of them, Toyota, Honda, and Nissan. They're the three worst, and I'll tell you why. In fact, I made a video about why those are the three worst. Toyota, Honda, and Nissan. And it even has the numbers in that video. I'll put a link in the description below. You can check that video out. Let me know in the comment section below though. What do you think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I crazy? Or is this prediction pretty much on the money? I think it is, but I could be wrong. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.